Well, hello and welcome back. And I'm here with some news. And quite a lot has been happening in the run up to Prince Harry's much anticipated book titled Spare. So we have a lot to talk about. I hope you can settle in, grab a snack. We're going to be talking for a minute because we have a lot of news. So ITV first and foremost have released another promo clip where the Duke of Sussex has talked about a couple of more insights concerning especially Prince William. So we've had Tom Bradby in the clip asking Prince Harry a couple of questions, and he asks him, wouldn't Prince William say to him, "How could you do this to me?" And in the clip, Prince Harry says that he would probably say a lot of things. And then he asks him, some people have railed against him because of how he's talked about the invasion of his privacy, and people are asking, wouldn't the argument be made that he now was invading the privacy of his own family members? But he says that that accusation comes from people who don't understand or who don't want to believe that, in fact, it has been his family that have been briefing the press. So isn't that quite interesting? Here in this clip, Prince Harry, he is quite open in the fact that he is saying that those leaks have been coming from his family members. So one can imagine how that has made him feel. And then he was also asked about the coronation, whether or not he would attend, and I think that's been a question that a lot of us have been asking in light of the Netflix documentary and of course in light of these interviews that he has given and will be aired, as well as the book. And he said that a lot could happen between now and then, but he says, you know what, the door is always open. The ball is in their court and there's a lot to discuss, and he hopes that they will sit down and talk about it. So it is interesting that the Duke of Sussex is still open to any type of reconciliation from the members of his family. He is not doing this to burn bridges, and I will get into that, so just put a pin in that. And he was also asked by Tom Bradby whether he believed in the monarchy, and he said yes. But in answer to the question, would he have a part in that future, he says that he does not know. So the Duke of Sussex is all out here. He's saying he is not going to stay silent because staying silent has not helped the issue. There was this whole narrative and commentary that he and Meghan stepped back from the royal family because they wanted privacy. And of course, people are asking, when did they ever say that? That has just been spun out of, some web of lies. He has never talked about the fact that he and Meghan want to go away and be hidden away forever. They expounded upon that more in the Oprah interview, saying that they did not believe that the media had to have a right to every aspect of their lives. And that was what was happening. And they did not feel in that environment that they were in as members of the royal family that they could continue to operate, feeling that because they were being funded by the taxpayer dollars, that now every aspect of their lives was up for grabs. Too many leaks, and of course we always talk about the fact that they don't have any more leaks about their lives. Now that they are safely away from, that environment where every now and then there was a story going out about Meghan having done this or that, or Prince Harry having done the other. So just talking about leaks, let's just segue into this perfect segue. Prince Harry's memoir, Spare, as we all know, which is due to be released on the 10th of January, somehow went on sale in Spain several days early, derailing the security operation put in place to stop its contents from leaking ahead of next week's publication date. So, according to the Mail, which is ironic, they say that they managed on Thursday to obtain copies of the book in Spain, where the title is En la Sombra, meaning in the shadow. So how did that happen? And first and foremost, why is the Mail, who always talk about how people are tired of the Sussexes and how they are irrelevant and people are, bored of them, why were you looking for their book in the first place? So that's interesting. Not only had they known of it, but they got their hands on a copy. So I think it is a hard copy. So that in itself will be a challenge. I think having to translate the page for those of them who do not speak Spanish. So first and foremost, why were the Mail online not only looking for the book, but they obtained copies of the book? Talk about total cognitive dissonance in their, publications and what they are actually doing. So we have to find out how that happened, because they said that there has been such a huge security operation to keep this book and all its details under wraps. So what an interesting situation that it went on sale. I wonder how that could have happened, because of course those who were stocking that book knew that that book would be out on the 10th. So that's just its own story. Let me know your thoughts on that particular bookshop. What happened? Would you speculate as to the reason why they would have, put the book on sale before the 10th? I would like to know your speculation on that. So the bookshop said this, and this was their reasoning as to why they put it on sale. They said that, quote, "We just received this today. It was the only new book. There was no indication that we could not put it on sale until a certain date, so we put it on sale today," end quote. So that was a quote from the shop assistant. So for me, that reasoning, it doesn't really fly, because of course everyone knew that the book was to be out on the 10th. Share your thoughts. So basically now there has been the story now going round from the Guardian newspaper, and they say in this book that Prince Harry claims that William, I'll skim over it, I don't want to get into details, but basically Harry claims in his book that William physically attacked him and pushed him to the ground in a fight about Meghan, who Harry said William had called, quote, "abrasive and rude," end quote. So of course, as one might imagine, the story has been making the absolute rounds. It has been on almost all the outlets that I can think of. It's really such a huge deal, because of course a physical altercation between the two, that is startling to so many. But I will put a caveat here. I did a bit of research on this, and it is quite interesting that a couple of royal reporters and authors have spoken about the fact that the Windsors in general, and it has been something that has been long known, that some of the Windsor men have quite a temper, can be hot-headed. And if you want any proof of this, think back to all of the reports we've had and first-hand accounts that we've had of, first and foremost, Prince Charles, the then Prince Charles, now of course King Charles, but the then Prince Charles when he was married to Princess Diana, and they talked about the fact that they had filthy rows. They would just go at each other. And one quote by the then Princess of Wales, Princess Diana, she said that Prince Charles, at that time, they had an argument, and she said that he was all over her like a bad rash. So they had their shouting matches. And when you think about William and Harry, all known about Prince Harry in the press, how he's had those famous altercations with the tabloid reporters, and images of him going at a couple of tabloid reporters. So, he's gone out at them, completely losing his temper. And he himself spoke about the fact that there was a time when, he had quite an interesting reaction. Meghan told him that he had to see someone about that. But of course, there is this question mark concerning Prince William, who for all the years has been cast as a golden child. But for those who scratch the surface a bit deeper, for example, a royal author called Robert Lacey, who wrote a book about Prince William and Harry and about their breakdown in their relationship, he spoke about the fact that William too has a temper. And I'll quote him here in an interview that he had with Sky News. He spoke about, first of all, Prince Harry's temper, as I said before, and he goes on to say, quote, "When I started writing the book, people would say, both brothers, William, of course, also has a temper," end quote. So I think that's something that a lot of people are, having to come to grips with. I will use that word, and I use that because, as I said before, Prince William has been cast in a light as a kind of golden child, and Prince Harry, of course, had been cast as the one who was the party prince, who was, going after reporters and lashing out at them. There was that whole narrative about Prince Harry before, of course, he reformed himself and decided to have his, 10 years there in the military and serving his country. And, that totally transformed the image that Prince Harry had. And I think he also started to take himself a bit more seriously. And I think at that moment, Prince Harry, he saw a path for himself and not simply be the one who was a quote spare. So let me tell you about this book. He is not sparing anyone. There's been another story going around where they're talking about the Nazi uniform that he wore, infamously rather, he wore. And they're saying that, in fact, he says that it was William and Kate at the time who might have suggested him to wear it. Now, some people are up in arms about that, saying how could he put the blame back on his older brother and, the older girlfriend at the time. But you know what? I think we'll find a couple of more stories corroborating that report. First and foremost, let's go back to Robert Lacey, who's been coming through. And he says this once again in his interview with Sky. God, thank you for this man. So he talks about how the reaction was when Prince Harry wore the Nazi uniform. And he says this, that Prince Harry was, after that, he was seen as the, quote, the villain. He says this, quote, William, who'd, gone with him to choose the uniform, went with him to the party, came out smelling like a rose, end quote. So he says this, that the press want us to see William as the, quote, golden hope of the monarchy, end quote. And he says that inevitably, Harry had to play the role of the spare. Because the future hope, as I said before, was Prince William and Kate, who together would be such a marvelous couple. So he goes on to talk about that framing. Now, we all think back to the moment when Prince Harry decided to wear that uniform. And a lot of people have spoken about this. I think even one of Charles's biographers back in the day, Penny Jr., she said that the whole party itself, by the way, was just so off-putting, quite controversial as well. And in an article, they pointed out the fact that everyone invited to that party did not seem bothered by the theme of the party. And this is a quote from an article, quote, Indeed, among the Windsors, the subjugation of colonies appears to be a popular topic. At Prince William's 21st birthday, guests dressed to the theme of Out of Africa. End quote. So you can imagine there has been a level of protection for Prince William. Can you imagine that? I wonder if it was Prince Harry, would we ever have stopped hearing about it? The articles that perhaps would have been printed on and on talking about how the Duke of Sussex has nostalgia for colonialism. But of course, when it was Prince William, you might have heard about it, but only in passing. So just once again, something to chew on and to think about, because as a spare, he was more, opened up to the negative press in his role as a spare, and I will also get back to that. And once again, when we think about the natives and colonial themed party, Prince William also appeared there in a leopard outfit with black leggings. Yeah, and Guy Pelly, who by the way was blamed for being a bad influence in Prince Harry's life, he dressed up as a queen and delivered a speech mocking her voice. And others in that party donned cowboy boots, stuck feathers in their hair as American Indians. Kate as well, she was also at that party. And as Robert Lacey pointed out, that Harry came away from that as a villain. And William, who is his older brother at the time, who could have given him guidance and instruction, he did not get any blame at all. So how many of you older siblings out there know that when a younger sibling who is, near your care, under your care does something, you tend to get some of the blame as well? How odd is it in this situation that William was completely protected? And of course, I'm not trying to stir up any hate for a young version of himself, but most would reasonably expect that an older sibling would be held more accountable. But Harry got all the blame. He had to go on his whole apology tour, and absolute silence concerning William, who was supposed to be guiding him. So you have to think about when they say that invisible contract is there. The press knew to cast William as, Robert Lacey says, the golden hope of the monarchy. But Prince Harry as, a court jester, a party prince, and some protections that were in place for William, and later, as we've seen for Kate, were not in place for Harry, and now we've seen even more less in place for the Duchess of Sussex. So that's straight from a royal reporter, right? Right now, as we consider, and I told you to put a pin in the fact that Prince Harry does not want to, pull down or bring down the institution. I think in all this, he wants truly reconciliation and some acknowledgement of what he has gone through and has been put through in his role as this, quote, spare, and how the media have sometimes had a absolute field day with him, printing what they want about him. regurgitating narratives and old stories and trying to paint him in a certain kind of way. And perhaps this is his moment to correct the narrative in a public way, in a historic way, where his story will be told when the historians look back and talk about him. It won't be one-sided with all that's been out in the press, because he has a chance to actually fight back, speak up, and voice his own perspective, because till now, the overwhelming one in the press has been very against him and pro other people there. So I think he's only asking them to be reasonable and to be honest about the fact that in his role as a spare, he has been required and expected to do so much more, to be a court jester, to be the sacrificial lamb for others, to keep them from having negative press when it could be so targeted and focused on him and then later on his wife Meghan. And I think Prince Harry, he has made it clear he will not play the game. He took his family out of there. He is not content to be a spare. Doesn't mean he wants to be the king. He just isn't willing to play that irrational role that was expected of him, to just be the press punching bag. And as I said before, to be just trotted out anytime they needed a distraction, him and his wife, and oh God forbid, his kids. We salute Prince Harry. And I'm asking everyone to open up their minds and not be so programmed by narratives that have been out there. As I've followed the Sussexes, that I think have been able to step back and see them in a total perspective, a picture. I do not have Stan glasses on, rose-tinted glasses when I look at them. I can see the flaws. And all we're asking for, people who are out here who have seen what's happening, is for people to just stop the press bullying and accept that there has been counter-briefing and briefing against this couple to bring them down, and I will get into that as well here. So yes, we salute Prince Harry in this. Totally a fighter, and he will fight for his name and he will fight for his account to be out there as loudly as we heard all of the negative stories that have been out about him over the years and about Meghan. It's all coming out, guys, and we are here for this. So it is interesting when you find a narrative crafted in the press. Like I've said, a lot of people have just absolutely taken it all in, that Harry and Meghan are just the villains of the story. Quite fascinating when people have been fed a narrative about someone and then they get to see them in a certain light. And it is a wonder if people are able to step back and absorb new information, because I think there's a study as well that people, when they have been fed a narrative and it's like baked into them, that sometimes it can be very hard for them to see it from another perspective, because they're kind of programmed to believe it in a certain way. So I'm wondering, for those who totally support, William and have been flying the flag high, whether it's possible for them to actually believe that he has a temper. And as Robert Lacey says, that both the brothers can fly off the handle. And he also went on in his Sky News interview to expound on the temper of William. He says this, that when Prince Harry and Meghan were stepping back from their royal roles, that the Queen had authorized the Sandringham Summit. But before that, the Queen also had the family come beforehand. You can see the screen grabs here. I'm not putting any words in his mouth. Had the family come beforehand just to meet and, to kind of rough out the rough edges, just for them to get a chance to talk before the summit. And he said this quote, "William actually refused. He said he would only sit down with his brother at the negotiating table with his negotiating team." End quote. And isn't that interesting? The Queen herself called them to come beforehand and William said no. So a question here. I wonder if this was Prince Harry instead of Prince William, who, when the Queen had requested a meet, had in fact refused. Do you think we would have heard about it, and what do you think the narrative in the press would have been? Food for thought. And also talk about ingrained beliefs as well. After Robert Lacey talks about, both the brothers having, tempers, and talking about how William had refused a meet with the other members of his family at the request of the Queen, the reporter asks him about the behavior of Harry and Meghan. Talk about ingrained belief. So that just shows you the power of narrative right there. So just some food for thought, huh? So when we talk about that physical altercation initiated, according to reports, by William, that is something that a lot of people have to think about. That is not a matter that can be just waved away lightly. Just reverse it. Even if it was just a rumor that Harry had launched at his brother, we would have heard about that non-stop, right? And the press would be going on and on about how Harry needs to be stripped of his titles. You know, if I can call it the press's greatest hits against the Sussexes. You know, they always talk about their titles and, you know, and how everyone's tired of them. People just want them off their screens. Just, you could imagine the outrage, right? But right now, it's quite interesting that the talk that I've been hearing, and I've gone on a couple of, you know, outlets listening to what they have to say, those who are anti the Sussexes and listening to what some people are saying on the pro-Sussex side. And it's interesting that I find a lot of people are incensed that Prince Harry could even talk about this. Instead of them actually asking what could be done, instead of genuine concern that William could actually reportedly even have done that. So it's interesting. It's like people are upset that someone talked about being wronged more than the person who allegedly wronged them. That in and of itself is deeply problematic. So let me know your thoughts. So there's a lot to go into, and I just want to cover one more thing. It's been interesting as I've been looking on all of the commentary concerning the Duke of Sussex and, you know, what he shared in the promo clips of the upcoming 2 interviews that he has that will be aired on Sunday. It's interesting that I've seen even a lot of the Waleses people, like if I can put that, people who are in their camp, echoed the exact same sentiment, including Robert Lacey in his conversations with Sky News and as well as a couple of other outlets when he was promoting his own book about the brothers. First and foremost, there was this interview on Good Morning Britain, and some people were there discussing the alleged things that have taken place in the book excerpts that were released early, and people were asking if it was even possible that such a thing could have happened where Prince William is concerned. And a woman who is a reporter who Prince Harry came across had a chance to speak with the Duke of Sussex, and they show the image here, and this was shortly after the alleged incident. And you could see that, you know, prominently on the bottom of the screen that, you know, what's been going around. And she was asked if she ever got a sense that something had gone wrong. And she says that she did get a sense that something had happened. According to her, that Prince Harry had sort of opened up to her. She says this, quote, "I definitely got the impression that things had really soured between them." She says this, that he was hurt on, quote, how his family had turned against him and his wife. And then, you know, they go on to talk about it. She says that there was hostile briefing. And, you know, here is another man. I didn't quite catch his name, but he seemed to be on the side of William and Kate. And he says this, quote, he suspects that Harry and Meghan would have eclipsed William and Kate. He went on to say, quote, they have more freedom and flexibility and charisma. Not in, that's a typo on the closed caption. And he says that, of course, he says they have more freedom and flexibility and charisma, I think, as a couple. So haven't I spoken on that time and time again? A lot of people have talked about what happened with the Sussexes and why all of a sudden the press were being briefed to bring them down. And I have strongly said this and a couple of others that there might have been a strong element of jealousy there in the firm in trying to, you know, bring down the Sussexes in the eyes of the public because Prince Harry at a point was so popular, and when he got together with Meghan, they were just called rock star royals. And Robert Lacey, a long time ago in his interview with Sky, he reiterated this. He talks about Meghan joining and he says this, quote, you know, they became in a way too successful. End quote. And he talks about how Meghan brought a great dimension to the royal family. You can see the clips there, the closed caption. I am not adding any words to him. And they say how the palace had never seen this before. She was a celebrity in her own right. Before she met Harry, she was a millionairess, you know. And he talked about how the palace, when they saw this self-made, successful woman, and he went on to say that, you know, the way she was, it was hard for her to bend to the system, and the system would not bend to her. He wasn't also all pro Meghan. He spoke about how, she was very outspoken against the palace's protocol of being impartial and not getting political at all. So he also spoke about this in an interview with ET. He said, quote, "These rock star royals, Harry and Meghan, overshadowed them." And the context of this is that Prince William, they said that there was a school of thought that William and Kate were happy that Harry and Meghan left the UK. So you see that, overshadowing them. So this is not something that I'm saying because I'm a stan. I think these are just facts. The royal family is all about precedence, about the order of importance. There are the heirs and the spares, and the spare cannot be more popular than the heir. A lot of commentators spoke about this and said that there was this possibility that the Sussexes were becoming too successful, too popular, and were eclipsing those who are above them in the line of hierarchy. So, it's just this whole cascade of how jealousy is just such a bad thing. And had they only known to embrace the couple and bring them in and just, bask in that glow and let that rising tide raise them all, it would have been so fantastic. But as you can see how it's gone, Prince Harry is now speaking out. He will not allow the press to craft a historical narrative about him and his wife without fighting back. He is a born royal. He is a prince. He knows how it all works. He's seen how other members of that family in the past years have had their historical narratives put into place, and he said, no thanks, he has his side of the story. People always say that other royals can't speak out, but who can argue? I think we've always had their narrative that has been out in the press through briefings, but no one's stopping them from sitting down and writing books and having their own interviews. I mean, you've seen Charles do it in the past, so let's see what happens. So I want to know your thoughts about all this in the comment section below. So I hope it's okay that I've touched on the whole Harry and William incident, because out in the press and everyone is already crafting their narrative about, how Prince Harry should not have spoken up about that. And I think there has to be a lot of pushback on every side. If he wants there to be reconciliation, he has said that the ball is in his family's court. And owning up to what may have gone wrong will, I think, absolutely heal this. And I want to know your thoughts. So guys, let me also know, do you think Prince Harry will attend the coronation? In the premiere, we will have that poll running. Please vote. So thank you all for watching. Thank you to those who like, comment, and share. I appreciate you all. And a special shout out to those who support this channel financially. Your support means so much. You are dear and loved. And a couple of shout outs right here. A special thank you to channel supporter Corliss J. McClendon, one of the very long-time supporters here on Patreon. Corliss J. McClendon, God bless you. I appreciate you. You are so dear and valued. And a special thank you to Delcinia Preston as well. Delcinia, I want to say thank you. You are very generous and kind, and you are always in my prayers as I thank God for you. And a special thank you as well to Noreen Bengali. Thank you so much for your comments and all the ways that you engage on this channel. Thank you, and I love you. And a special thank you to you, Joyce. Joyce, thank you for commenting. Thank you for your love and support for this channel. I do appreciate that from the very depth of my heart. Thank you. Once again, leave all your thoughts on this in the comment section below. I love you all. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Let YouTube know you enjoyed what you watched. Have a great day. Comment below and I will catch you in the next one. Have a blessed one.